Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out episodes 21 and 22 of Vinland Saga, and we are getting into some interesting political movement kind of things that are happening with Knut trying to build up this kind of system of people around him that he at least knows is loyal to him or can get something useful out of him. I don't know how much he's relying on them in terms of trust, because he does seem to be a little bit, I don't know, distant with most people and seems to be struggling with a few things, especially when it comes to his religious beliefs and also some familial issues, especially with his father. We've seen lots of imagery with fathers throughout the series and how different people kind of feel about that, especially with Knut, who's had multiple different kind of father figures. He has his actual father, then there's the father in terms of God, and then there was of course Ragnar, who was a father figure. There are these different layers of how father to Knut is kind of evolved and switched, and his perspective on what a father should be. I don't know how easily he is going to be trusting people, and I don't really know if the people around him necessarily should be trusted, but he is trying to build a team of people who are at least going to be on his side when push comes to shove, especially when we saw the confrontation with his father where they had seen each other for the first time, and his father was really close to just killing him, especially since he has a brother, Harold, who's the favorite, and everyone kind of wants him to be the one that success is going to take over the throne anyway. So it doesn't seem like Knut is really needed in terms of the next person coming to the throne. So he seems more like a liability, right? So his father was kind of hoping that he would end up dying while he was captured or out in battle, so then it was more of a noble ending and he could say that he didn't have anything to do with it and he can mourn and have that be believable. Instead, he came back, so there's some issues there, and it seems that there's a divide between people who want to support Knut, probably because they think he's easy to manipulate, which isn't the case anymore, and then of course his brother, who is kind of the favorite son in the situation. So there's lots of interesting things happening on a more strategic side of things as opposed to some of the more all-out battles that we've seen up to this point. So I want to see kind of how Knut settles in to all of this and how he navigates now that he has this very different perspective of what he's doing and who he is in all of this. So I'm excited to get into that, see what the season is going to end off with as we get closer to season 2 stuff, at least that I'm able to watch. So let's just check out episode 21 in 3, 2, 1, go. We're just going right into the opener. Interesting. Usually we get a little something going on before the opener happens. I'm actually really excited for the second season. It started airing as I'm recording this. And I'm like, I gotta catch up so I can watch it. I'm just so curious about how everything's gonna end off. What's gonna kind of be the thing that is the capstone of season 1 that will, I think, establish what season 2 is gonna focus on, at least to begin with, before developing into some other ideas. Ugh, it's still such a brutal thing of just throwing someone headfirst into a tree. Yeah, that was the thing. Reunion. Are we gonna have a meetup with Thorfinn again? Interesting to say, like, freeing all the slaves too. Like, that's part of what they're trying to accomplish. Is this gonna be the reunion then? I really like how Askeladd is like this, I don't know, someone that he kind of gets advice from and then can make a decision for himself. Does he spot him? Ooh, he spots Askeladd. It's not a face you would forget, yeah, after everything that happened. Ooh, I'm like oddly like tense now. Uh-oh. I guess it's not great if they're like a nobleman and they don't know that he's like the prince. Do we just like not try to block it? What's the plan here? I'm assuming he probably has some kind of armor underneath the cloak. He looks very unamused. He's like, why I gotta deal with this? Oh no, it's gonna be quite a meeting. Ooh, yeah, quite a reunion moment there. He's not the little boy that you remember, just in case you were wondering. He's a little different now. It's the knife too, right? So he's gonna recognize that if nothing else. Awkward. You're very loud but incorrect. Plus, one of his hands is broken. I feel like it'd be really hard to load a crossbow that way. Ooh. He's like, oh? Ah, he's a bit of a legend now. That's interesting. Especially, I guess, if he's with the prince, people would have heard of him, right? Oh, how long has it been since he's seen someone who cared about him, right? And that change in like his eyes and like his facial expression so quickly. Ooh, do they have someone as a decoy? I feel bad for her though. I was wondering why he was dressed kind of subtle compared to the kind of look that he had before when he was going around. Oh, it's nice to see the compassion though. I guess it would be a good time to probably off him given that he's not in his father's camp, right? So it's less likely that someone will blame his father for killing him. I wonder if that's how it ends. Maybe someone kills Askeladd, whether or not it's Thorfinn or someone else. Oh, he wants to hear the stories again. I think he's trying to forget that his family's still there. It's a bit of a sore spot, I would assume, with his mom and sister. So he needs the anger. He kind of has to like stir it up in him because otherwise he doesn't have that direction anymore. I think that that's another part where he doesn't want to go home, right? Because if he has something else to focus on and he has to accept that he's left this all behind, then I think it'll tear him apart a bit. Like he doesn't know how to go back to who he was. I like their friendship though, where Askeladd's trying to be jovial and kind of distract him and not focus on how injured he is. It's not very reassuring. It's a weakness though. I feel like that's gonna come back where something's gonna happen in battle with his leg. There's that confusion though of like someone trying to kill the prince and whether or not it actually worked or didn't. True. If the king is here, why kill the prince? Ooh. Are people gonna think that it's the brother? Sometimes a rumor is enough though. You know, there has to be some. The threat has to be real, and then the rumors have to build off of that, right? Mm hmm. Because everyone's going to be talking about the assassination attempts. Yeah, and now it's the the king can't do anything that'll make him seem like he doesn't show favor to Canute, because if he does, people will assume that he had something to do with the assassination. It's clever. He's gonna have to play nice in the meantime. I saw that coming. He doesn't want someone else to die in his place. Mm-hmm. Oh, probably. He's been with him a lot longer, right? He's been left alone. Dude, sometimes having a spy is a good thing. At least then you know, if you know who they are, then you can use them as a way to get what information you want to the king. That look, though, he definitely got something brewing. Hmm, maybe not a warrior, but politician? He's got it like the knife strapped to his like cast. Look, he's got some anger going on now, and he needs to like reassure himself of what he's doing, that he should be trying to fight Askeladd. That look, though. Oh, is it because Bjorn wants to die in battle, maybe? A warrior's death to fit with, the Norse belief system? Instead of like in a sick bed? Does he hate him? I don't know if he does. Maybe it's just like in general because of the like Welsh ties that he feels more pulled from because of his mom. I think it's probably the closest anyone has been to being Askeladd's friend. Like, I think Bjorn's pretty much the only thing that I would even consider being one of Askeladd's actual friends. Oh, the way that the sound cut out. Why am I getting teary? And the fact that he was like, I'm sorry that I didn't make it quick. Dang it, my eyes. I don't know why that one got me. Because he was like, I just wanted to be friends, I guess. And even if, like, that's not how Askeladd saw him, he still cared enough to say it in that moment. I think it's because I'm like, Bjorn's probably the closest thing Askeladd has to a friend, and I think that's why it's getting me in, like, my feelings. Uh, I wasn't prepared to be in my feelings. I feel like there have definitely been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and I've felt that, but I feel like the only other time that I've felt that strongly on like an emotional level during this was probably back during Thor's death, because again, it was like the person who was like the most important to Thorfinn, and him losing him at such a young age, and it was such this pivotal moment of like his development as a character. And I think also for like Askeladd, like this is, like I said, probably the closest to a friend he's ever had. Whether or not that's actually what it was, I know that he was like, you were my only friend. I don't know how true that is, if it was like something he actually felt, or if it was just him saying it in that moment because this person is dying. Like Bjorn's one thing was that he wanted to be his friend, so he's just trying to give him that before he dies. But also, you know, saying he was sorry that he didn't do it fast, like he missed a vital organ and he had to, that was drawn out longer than it should have been, but also being the person to bring an end to it, right? Like I said, dying in battle is really important with Nordic beliefs, because if you die outside of battle, you can't get to Valhalla and all that kind of stuff. So it, instead of him dying in a sickbed, it was, he needed someone who would fight him in the end so that he could die a warrior, right? And having Askeladd do that, I think, is another sign of like their friendship, because he was going to die anyway and it was just a matter of time. I feel like Bjorn is like the most important person to Askeladd. So having that ending and having it be about not, I want like warrior culture or resentment, you know, all the other things that we've kind of seen up to this point, and it wasn't a battle of revenge or anger or wanting to assert power or anything like that. It was a death of compassion, and at the end of it, it was a moment of wanting to establish friendship and caring about someone. And I think that that's like why it got me, is that most of the time when someone dies, there's like this feeling of manipulation or revenge or resentment wrapped up in it, and this is one of the few times when it's actually a feeling of like love and caring. At least like I feel like Bjorn definitely had a very strong feeling towards Askeladd and cared for him a lot. So I think that's why it got me, that I'm just like, my emotions. I was not prepared to cry at all of this, but I do really like getting to see Askeladd's planning and the way that he's manipulating like rumors and people's opinions, right? Because I feel like that's a really big thing, because when they eventually take the throne in some way, whether that's like killing the king themselves, arranging for that to happen, him meeting an unfortunate accident, you know, whatever happens that results in Canute taking the throne eventually, they need that to be something that is seen as good, right? So if they paint Canute as like this beautiful prince who's been attacked and almost killed, and there's this rumor that maybe it's his brother, maybe it's his father, like why would someone attack a prince when the king is right there? So sowing that doubt and that feeling that Canute is like a victim in this and should be protected or at least championed behind, and then painting the king and Harold as these people who are planning behind the scenes, manipulating them, trying to kill off this person. I mean, I think that Canute has a bit of an upper hand in some way, in that he has that beauty to him, and humans like beautiful things. It's just, we there's that pretty bias, you know, where we like things that are pretty, and I don't know how well that would translate to like a warrior-based culture, but if nothing else, they could literally get a woman to double as him. And I think that there is this feeling of needing to protect femininity, especially in like a warrior culture where a lot of the time, like I've talked before about, femininity usually represents like sovereignty of the land. So there's this feeling of needing to protect that, because without it, the land dies and you can't actually like cultivate crops and have prosperity and abundance and things like that. There's lots of things wrapped up in femininity outside of just like men and women and the dynamics of like gender politics and all that kind of stuff. So I think that Knut representing some femininity might actually be an asset to him, not as a warrior, but as a figurehead, because I think that he'll be more associated with that beauty and abundance and things like that, right? More, you're able to focus on making things beautiful when you have plenty. When you're in scarcity, you have to just get the bare minimum and make it work, whereas beautiful things can be created when you have abundance. So I think that manipulating the rumors and leveraging, you know, that kind of conversation, having something that's very concrete and people were all there to see this assassination attempt, and then building off of that, because now people know something of this rumor is true, so why isn't the rest of it true? So I really like that that's the kind of warfare that we're having right now, is that war of words. Before I'm assuming we get into some of the more action heavy things. And of course, Thorfinn going through a lot now that he's had Leif coming back and that connection to home and this offering to go home, right? He has a way to get back to his mom and his sister and back home and leave this. And I think that it's putting him in a bit of a tailspin because he needs this, right? I've said before about how his anger and his revenge fuels him. It's the only thing that's keeping him going. It's the reason that he gets up. It's the reason that he heals himself. It's the reason that he doesn't die in battle when he's fighting other people. So I think he doesn't really know what to do if there's another option. And I feel like he's digging into that rage that he has because he needs it right now and he doesn't know how to let go of it. So we'll have to see how that turns out, especially fighting against Askeladd. We had that little hint that his leg is not doing well for him and it's going to be a bit of a weak point. So we'll see how that manifests itself as he fights with Thorfinn and other people moving on. But let's get into episode 22 and see where we're gonna end up with this. If we're actually gonna get another Askeladd and Thorfinn fight, or if it's going to devolve into some other things. In 3, 2, 1, go. Starting with sad piano makes me get right back into my feelings. Please don't make me watch it again. I'm still vulnerable. Oh, the way that it's just the music, like all of the sound is cut out from like the actual environment until that clashing of blades. Can't see his face, which makes me feel like I don't know how true that statement was. I don't know if it matters though. You know, let him pass on thinking that he did get what he wanted. The fact that he's like calling him kid and then also calling it playing, right? Like it's a serious thing that he did with fighting against Bjorn and helping his friend pass on. And then when it's Thorfinn with his revenge, he's just like, okay, I'll play with you, kid, you know? I really do. I wonder if Askeladd makes it to season 2. I wonder if that's what happens. Because we've had kind of hints of his mortality and that he's kind of getting to the end of his warrior career. Like he can feel that he's not in his prime anymore, which usually means that he's gonna probably die in battle of some kind. Um, and we have like the injury with his leg, and it's such an important part of like Thorfinn's story that it's like tethering him, right? He's stuck with Askeladd. So I wonder if the season finale is Askeladd ends up dying in whatever way that happens to be, if that's Thorfinn, if that's somebody else. Um, and then Thorfinn kind of being set free from that revenge, but needing to regain focus. Yeah, he's more serious than he normally is. Just keeps trying to make a bet. I feel like something more important. I feel like something more important fuels Askeladd, and that's like the aura. I don't like the dig at women, but okay. Um, sir? Yeah, there's something deadly about Askeladd. Like, normally he's kind of playful about it, but now, even though he called it playing or calling it a game, it feels more serious this time. It could be the grief, but I think it's also that he's finally working towards what he ultimately wanted to do. Oy. The music is really eerie too. I also feel like Thorfinn's not in it the same way that he usually would be. Because I feel like he's losing his focus. Are you? Oof. Yeah, you would have been dead. That's what I was saying. Like he lets the rage fuel him, and he can't tamper that rage when he fights Askeladd. Are we gonna get some more backstory? Oof. Yeah, I was gonna say he has some rage because of his father, because of how close he was with his mother. Did he grow up at a forge? Hmm. That's very Celtic to be named after like a specific trait. Probably not. I feel like you need hope in that kind of instance, though. It's the same thing as Thorfinn asking the stories about Vinland, right? It's needing the hope that there's this other beautiful place outside of where you're stuck. Oh, that transition back into the snow. Ugh, the shadow over his face saying that, though. I guess it depends on whether or not he can live with himself with not helping people. Uh-oh. That is not going to go over well with superstition being what it is. Oh, that shift to rage. I love all the details of the little scars on his hands. Oof, dang. Imagine that being how you kind of see it. Like every time that he's good at being a fighter or a warrior, he sees that as proof that he's related to his father. There must be such a resentment in that. Are we seeing mercy? No. I was like, it makes sense if he's like showing mercy because he sees potential for a warrior as opposed to family ties, perhaps. Oh, I feel this going terribly wrong. Of like him feeling some connection to like family with his half brothers. Yeah, I got a bad feeling. I feel like he hasn't forgiven his father though. Ooh, innocent bystander. Seems unnecessary. Yeah, I was like, I feel like he's was just buying his time. Ooh, even used his brother's sword to pin it on him. That's cold, Askeladd. I wonder if Thorfinn even really wants to kill him anymore. Or if it's just again, like he needs that rage, he needs that direction. And if he did succeed, then what would happen, right? What does he do next? I think he's afraid of the unknown. He really is pushing him today, isn't he? I think it's because Askeladd, like I said, he has more of that like higher calling now. He's not just getting by. So he's not gonna be playing the same games anymore. Nope. I don't think he sees himself too much like his father, right? Especially since he's been a warrior for so long. Like, yeah, like he's embraced that his father's side of who he is. Oh, we're going back. Oh, and he only went as far back as the rage, right? He didn't go back all the way to before his father died. Ugh, that mixture of like crying and anger. When I said that Thorfinn seems to be in a bit of a tailspin, that does seem to be where we're at, where he really doesn't know what he's doing anymore. And I feel like he's like, okay, I'll fight Askeladd and I'll try to kill him and I'll get my revenge because that's what he knows. It's the only thing that he knows. And he's had lots of things kind of get in the way as this stopped being the normal kind of Viking sword for hire that he was used to for so long. Now that they're with Canute and there's all of this negotiation with like politics and stuff like that, he's really out of his element with that. And now this connection with home and remembering his life before joining Askeladd and, well, following Askeladd around and what his life was like, the fact that he has family, he has people who cares about him. Like I said, when was the last time he saw someone who cared about him, right? With life coming in and like hugging him and, you know, crying with joy at seeing him, being, I'm so glad that you're still alive, that you're here. When was the last time Thorfinn had anyone care about him like that? So he's getting a very different feeling now. He's being reminded of what it feels like to have people who care about you. And then now I feel like he doesn't know what to do with himself. Like I said, does he even actually want to kill Askeladd anymore? Because it's been so long, and I feel like he's changed a lot. Askeladd has changed a lot, and I'm sure that the pain is still there about his father, but like you can only hold on to rage and pain for so long. Like it will destroy you if you keep just holding on to it. It's been 10 years. Like, how long can you hold on to that same level of rage and have it be genuine? I think that he's just forcing himself to be in that same headspace. And like I said, when he was going back in time through all of these events over those years, he only went as far back as that initial point of rage after Thors was killed. He didn't go all the way back before that, to all of the good things that happened in his life before that moment. He's so stuck in that. Like I've said before, I feel like he's paused in that moment. He hasn't been able to grow up from that moment because he's so stuck in that rage, and he needs to be, because otherwise what is he living for? What is he doing? And he doesn't know who he is. He's just the revenge. And I think he's getting to a point where it's not enough anymore, and he doesn't know what to do. And having this, you know, these revelation of, I think, him realizing that if it's taken him 10 years and he still hasn't succeeded, is he really trying? I feel like he has to dig into that rage, and he doesn't think clearly when he's fighting, because he needs that rage. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense for him to be fighting Askeladd. And you know, at the end where we had that moment of obviously crying, but it was so mixed up with anger, because I feel like Thorfinn doesn't know how to feel anything else. He's like apathy or anger, and that's like the only things that he knows. And to have something like sorrow mix in with that, he just doesn't know what to do with it. Even when he was a kid, right after Thors died, there was that initial sorrow, and then he switched it into rage because I think it was easier for him to cope with what happened. So he doesn't know what to do now that he's feeling all these other things, and even like feeling wanted or cared about, like he did with that, you know, seeing someone from when he was a kid who legitimately cares about his well-being. He doesn't know how to like care about people anymore. That's not who he is. So I think that he really is just kind of crumbling apart, and I really do wonder if I'm right. My prediction at the moment is that by the end of the season, Askeladd is going to die in some way. I don't know what that's going to be, like who's going to be responsible. I don't think it'll be Thorfinn, but I think that might be like the last piece that just kind of completely pulls apart who Thorfinn is, because he won't have that goal anymore, that clear direction, and kind of tying himself to Askeladd with this journey. So I think that the next couple of episodes are really going to be a dark point for Thorfinn as he tries to come to terms with all of these things happening, especially as he's, you know, becoming an adult too, and he's kind of seeing a lot more of the world, and he's starting to be more aware of the emptiness of what he's been doing. So I feel like we only have a couple left, and then second season. So I don't know what the next couple of episodes have for us, but I feel like I'm just super excited because I want to know what kind of note that we're ending on for this season before getting into what people have told me is like the real, like, you know, heart of the story. So I'm super excited for that. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so miss next time I post a Vinland Saga reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!